obviously, but you already are in a particular attitude, if you like. You know that for the next 3 weeks you're going to have to be paying attention and open to learning and all of these things. But if you imagine that you're at home now and you're going to do an ATM, and before you start the ATM, you're going to walk around and notice what you notice so that you can get a sense of what's different at the end. What are you transferring after all these years and ATM practice and knowledge gradually building that automatically you start to attend to, or that you are developing good habits about? Good things that you don't have to be racking your brain necessarily thinking, what is it that I'm sensing? What's interesting to me? What am I curious about as I walk? And again, notice, is there a particular speed that you walk to do that, to pay attention? And let's get an idea, as you're walking, if people could call out what some of the questions that they're asking themselves are. So I'll start just to break the ice. So as I'm walking along the floor at the moment, I'm really, one of the things that's drawing my attention, or I'm asking a question about, is how do the different parts of my foot make contact with the ground? And within that, how does the pressure move across my 2 feet? So what we're going to do here is a process where someone's going to say one of their questions, and then we're just going to see, does that have meaning for me? Is that something I'd ever ask myself? Is it a question that would be useful for me to ask? Or it's a question, oh no, yeah, well, okay. Okay, so put it in a question. Kevin? Keep walking. Keep walking, and what's your question? And I'll put it so you don't, I'll say it again so that it's on the... Okay, so the question is, as he's walking, how free is my sternum, or how is it involved in the movement as I'm walking? No? Because this is what's really interesting, because the more we can verbalize these questions, because so much about Feldenkrais is this inner sensory world and, you know, really paying attention to ourselves. But to become a teacher or to facilitate other people's learning, we often have to bring it to language. Doris, yes?
The swinging of my right leg, the swinging of my left leg seems slightly different. What is that difference?
So Doris is, as she's walking, she's feeling that the swinging of her right leg and the swinging of her left leg are a little bit different, and she's interested in exploring, what is that difference? What's she doing through all of herself that she can observe that difference? Huh? So Helen's question is, as I'm walking, where do I look? And I would probably add to that, and how does that influence my walking? So hang on, let's do that one and I'll come back to you. We'll just, so yeah, where am I looking and how does that influence my walking? And you might see that where do I look, but by adding and how does that influence my walking gives you a bigger picture. Okay. Great. So as I'm walking, I'm feeling discomfort on one side. How do I use this discomfort, not judging it, but use it as a way to direct my attention to find something more about what I'm doing? In your diagonals, you mean? Next question is, as I'm walking, what's the relationship of the diagonals between my hips and shoulders? And when I think of that diagonal, do I think of the front diagonal or the back diagonal? Or is it something more through the middle of myself that I'm feeling in that diagonal? Wonderful. So I'm just expanding some of these out a little bit. Because that's what we're always looking for, this spreading of attention, that we're building relationships. We've got a question, but then we're looking to expand it into a bigger domain for people. And the idea is, how do I expand the question without making it too big? So Anna, as she's walking, she's interested in, what are her ribs doing? How are they moving in relationship to each other? And we could add maybe to that. No. Does the way I move my ribs influence my walking? So if I move my ribs in different ways, does it influence my walking? Do I think more of the front of my ribs or the back of my ribs? So Gloria, it says she's walking, she's thinking of this swaying of the spine, or this spinal curves moving through space. And again, how could we enlarge that to give it a little bit more meaning? Because this is where you're getting to. So often, you might remember last time I was here, we talked about the difference between gathering information, processing information, and applying information. So often, is the question just, I'm gathering information? What's my sternum doing? But how do we then take it into a bigger picture? And as you were just saying, Kevin, you applied it to, what are my shoulders doing as my, what are my shoulders doing? But how do we expand that out even more? Does my breathing influence how I walk? Or is my breathing influenced by my walking? You've got both ways there. So if you change your breathing, does that change your walking? Or if you change your walking, does that influence your breathing? So you've got something to investigate then. You've actually got something to do. So are we having fun as we're walking? What's our attitude as we're doing this? Is there a difference if I'm smiling? What does that do with my walking? Or if my face is a little bit serious? So what already feels comfortable or satisfying? So again, that's gathering information. Where could we take that observation? So maybe it would be, if I pay more attention to the parts of me that feel comfortable, what does that do to my walking? Compared to if I pay more attention to the parts that don't feel as comfortable. So as I'm walking, what happens in my arms and how my arms swing? And again, how do we give the bigger picture? How does that influence what my hips do, what my head does? So how do we keep developing this ability to keep spreading our attention? But not just to take in information, but to begin that really important part of using the information to help us learn something. Because then we can begin to apply it in more situations. Okay, so come back to your mats and let's do an ATM. I don't think you need a break yet. Yes, you can absolutely have a quick bathroom break. Mm-hmm.